Where do you see the balance between using inspiring speech and managing the risk of making commitments you can't keep?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and so Tim, that's exactly why I said it was hard. I mean, what you're saying is such a real point for people, right? We don't want to lose credibility and get up and make commitments that we can't step into. So a couple things that I think about. One is that, we want to make declarations that we actually can implement. So if, and that sounds kind of obvious, right? But you don't want to pick a declaration about something that you don't have a lot of control over. So that's the first one. The second one is we want to pick commitments that are not so specific that if we miss one part of them, we're going to miss all of them. So, I think of Steve Jobs, who was so great at this, would stand up and say, we're going to change the way that people consume music. And in fact, he did. He didn't say, we're going to, develop this exact type with these types of things in it, and that made people feel that it was a kind of an all or nothing type of endeavor. So one is to be broad enough that there's room within that commitment for you to maneuver. Another one is to think about, again, as I said, it's okay to fail and not to hide, to make commitments that are big enough and people are excited enough about them that they want to step into them. And sometimes you can do some pilot testing with a commitment. And ask a couple people, this is really what I want our commitment as a team to be. What do you think about it? And use it as a dialogue to start with, to jump off from. But in general, I find that people don't use commitments enough. We're scared of them. We're scared we're not going to be able to live into them. And it's a huge missed opportunity as a leader to not be putting them out there.
Okay, perfect. Next question is from Adam, and he asks, what is the best way to rebrand yourself if you have a damaged brand?
Mm-hmm. Good question, Adam. So let me be thoughtful about this one. I think, and gosh, that question points me in so many different directions. So I would say, first of all, that if it were me, I would want to get very grounded in how damaged my brand was. So we often, I love the quote, things are never as good or as bad as you think they are. So, I think about that a lot. That's something that was said to me actually in one of those presence moments when I first started my last business that I would come back to a lot. But it applies here too, right? I'd want to get very grounded in where is the damage and get very specific about it. So you might want to do something like that presence audit so you get a good sense of that. And then in terms of correcting it, one of the, it's a bit counterintuitive, but one of the most important things we can do is to hear people out who we have, where the relationship or the trust has been damaged. And to do it from a place of low self-orientation. So not to go in, not for them to feel as if you're trying to correct something, but to go in as if you're trying to understand something. And so, for example, if I had, lost credit, if I had, missed a bunch of deadlines on a project and lost some credibility there, I would want to go and hear from the people who mattered. What's the consensus here? Like, what can I do to help my brand? What can I do to make things better? Because if people are involved in the process and see you making steps, then that's important. The third part of that is, action does speak, right? It speaks the loudest. So as you make actions to change it, to change whatever that brand is, to make sure that those are communicated back, that repetition piece, back to the people who are helping you and help them, enlist your cause as well, because we often do things and we think people see them, but they don't, and it's important.
Right, perfect. We've had a couple questions about humor, specifically how to use humor to be inspirational, and when is it too much? Just how do you find that balance?
I don't know if I do find it, right, to be honest. So, I believe that you should use humor as you naturally use humor. Okay, so if you're someone who isn't that comfortable with humor in your personal life, then you don't want to all of a sudden try to be masterful and witty in your professional life, because not only is it going to seem insincere, it's going to be really hard for you to do it, and you're not going to feel confident about it. I use humor exactly. I mean, it's taken me a while to get there, to be totally honest. If people I worked with, in my 30s probably would have said she was very serious, and so it was after a lot of this work on myself that I realized that, it's so much more enjoyable for me just to naturally talk the way that I usually talk, to use the kind of humor that I usually use. So sarcasm generally does not work in any sort of inspirational setting. That's the one caveat. I've seen people occasionally use it, but you have to know them enough to know where it's coming from, and you just don't want to risk that confusion. So I generally try not to use sarcasm, though maybe it slips out a little bit here and there. But I do try to use the same humor that I use naturally. So as long as it works for the situation and it's who you are, then I would encourage you to use it.
With that, thanks, Christy, so much for answering those questions and for today's presentation. And we look forward to seeing you guys next month.